Okay, I'll hand over to Commissioner Botha, who's our investigator, to do the legal things, and then we'll take over again and continue with the normal routine.
Mr. Lesego Daniels, I want to thank you for appearing before us. As you know, as part of procedure, we require the taking of an oath or a solemn affirmation. Which would you prefer to take?
Mr. Masimini, I'm for Pastor Lesego. Before we can proceed, there are one or two aspects that we have studied relating to the summit that is before us today. Amongst others, when we started the complaint, which was finished to us on the previous occasion, after the charges have been laid by Commissioner Botha, that is the charge from South African Council of Churches. It was initially addressed to Advocate Lawrence Mushwani, chairperson of South African Human Rights Commission. That's one aspect we need to clarify as to how does it get to the CRR subsequently to becoming a complaint.
Yeah, and what else?
And let's clarify that one. Then I can move to the second, because we need protocol as to how was it referred. If there's any document which reflects as to how it got to this session or to the CRL, and if South African Church of Council was also advised on the policy document.
On the policy document?
Yeah, on what you call the complainant handling procedure manual, which is explicit as to how a complaint should be directed to the CRL.
Let's start with the other issue raised. Normally, as protocol amongst the Chapter 9 institutions across the board, especially the ones that deal with the rights of people, you would find that because there are so many institutions, people would come to us to complain about a human rights matter. We look at it, we investigate it, and then the Commission decides it's actually more of a gender, Commission for Gender Equality matter. And then we write to them and we transfer the matter there. And then the people concerned are told that your matter, your complaint is being dealt with by the Commission for Gender Equality due to the fact that that issue is more their issue than our issue. So in this particular matter, that protocol was observed, and the matter was officially transferred to the CRL Rights Commission by the Human Rights Commission. We then wrote to the South African Council of Churches to inform them that the matter is now being handled by the CRL Rights Commission, which is, of course, in line with the protocol.
Can I proceed? I'm following to what the Commissioner just said, the chairperson has just said now. I'll refer the Commission to its act, specifically to matters of procedure, section 20, which reads as follows. The Commission may determine its own procedure with due regard to the principles of transparency.
Yes. Which the Commission may change at end of its sitting. I hope you are aware of that.
Jefferson, can I proceed?
Yeah.
Let me proceed, then I'll tell you when I'm done.
But I'm chairing the meeting.
I understand.
You're not chairing it.
I understand you.
Yeah, so I'll determine when.
If you afford me chance to speak, and then you will be able to have direction. I refer back the Commission to this, the complainant handling procedure manual. I think the Commission is well aware of that. Which is the document which was compiled by the Commission, referring to 1.3, how should complainant be lodged? I'm going to read the paragraph to record. The complainant should be made in writing in prescribed form and HRA, and in various ways, including walk-in, fax, email, postal address, referral, telephone, and any other mode of communication. A complainant or requester must complete a complaint form in order to capture his or her personal details. Form can also be accessed on the website of www.crlcommission.org.za or by requesting the Commission to send such request. The Commission will assist those who cannot write and the disabled to complete the complaining form. This is how the complaint should be lodged. On this document, I'm reading on page 8, 9, and 10. It's a directive of the complaint form which should be completed. We don't have that before us.
No.
I'm coming back to, I'm referring the Commission, okay? So 3.1, complainant handling. If the complainant fails within its mandate, the Commission shall, within 3 days of the receipt of acknowledgement of such receipt in writing, an allegation letter or letter outlining the complainant to and requesting the alleged perpetrator to respond to the complainant shall be sent to the alleged perpetrator within 5 working days after acknowledgement. The alleged perpetrator shall be given 7 days within which to respond to the allegation. Following the response, the complainant shall be notified of this response in writing within 3 days of receipt of such response. The alleged perpetrator response shall be attached to the notice. Should the alleged perpetrator fail to respond to the allegation within 7 days, a notice to reminder shall be sent within 3 days after the expiry of 7 days, notifying the alleged perpetrator to respond within 5 days of receipt of that notice. In the event the alleged perpetrator fails to respond to the reminder within 5 days, the Commission shall send a second reminder within 3 days after the lapse of 5 days. The second reminder will be the last reminder. The second reminder will be the last reminder, which will contain inter alia a notice that should be alleged perpetrator for to respond on the last reminder of the Commission will invoke Section 72 of CRL Commission Act 19 of 2002 to summon the defaulter to appear before the Commission. That was not complied with. The Commission only sent summons without following the complainant manual, which is directed to administer the handling of complaint.
Do you remember what the summons were about? The summons were about a specific issue. You remember? And then last time we were here, we said to you, there's also a complaint from the South African Council of Churches. If you look at what the pastor was summoned for, it was for that. And if you look at what we then said was that we're doing an investigative study to look at those issues. However, that manual, if you look at it, does not take care of referrals. Because when issues are referred to us, the forms are already filled in at the point of entry. For the Human Rights Commission, for instance, in this issue, that would have happened there and not here. The issue of referrals is handled differently as opposed to normal complaints that come here. And another thing that we should be aware of, I think if I remember well, we used legal advisor last time, is the fact that the forms we are referring to that we didn't get are for our own internal purposes. Those forms are not for the complainant. As you say, you have not received the form. However, what we're doing here is an investigative study. Part of the investigative study is looking at commercialization of religion and the abuse and exploitation of people's belief systems. That's the conversation we're having. And then last time we said, by the way, there's also that other complaint that came to us from the South African Human Rights Commission. So the issue of exploitation of people and their belief systems is squarely on the table. It's using Section 7 of the Act and Section 41 of the CRL Rights Act. So we're here based on the Act, Section 7. This is a Section 7 committee looking at the investigative study. And then the questions will lead us wherever they lead us. We're here based not on the complaint, because that's not the summons he got. The summons the pastor got were very specific. They were beyond specific. So we said, there's also this other matter that came, that pertained to you. So the issue at hand here, commercialization of religion, exploitation of belief systems of other people. And the questions are there, and we'll ask for, you've been given questions prior, and we'll be asking those questions and delving even deeper, and we'll be looking at those issues. Commissioner, can I hand over to you?
Yes.
I'm still responding. I have to respond.
No, well,
as
you
well.
can continue to respond. I
Yeah.
just like to say that you need to get to
His
the point now.
response is part of our response
You
to
need to
your
get to
issue.
the point now as to where you stand in this matter. What are you trying to put forward?
I have already indicated.
Indicated what? Now,
No,
you've stated exactly what our policy is when it comes to complaints, when a complaint is lodged. That we've shown you that it has nothing to do with referral. We've also indicated to you, according to Section 20, that we can set our procedure at any time. And we've also indicated to you that this is a Section 7 investigation in accordance with Section 1.5, 5.1e. So, is there an argument against what has been placed for you? And if there is no
You're
argument,
not
can
allowed
you
to
please-
speak.
Can you please respond?
Yeah, I am going to respond. Talking about, as I indicated now, I'm objecting to the charge being put forth. I'll tell you why I'm saying that.
Excuse me, on a point of order. We are not talking about the charge at the
Commissioner
moment.
Bota, are you going to allow
This
me
is
to talk?
on a point
You
of
asked
order.
me, Commissioner Bota, you asked me to respond. I'm responding, now you're cutting me from responding.
Council, can I please ask you to stick to the matter at hand, and that is on the investigation. We're not looking at the charge or the complaint that is currently being put to your client. We are looking at the Section 7 investigation, which is an investigation into the commercialization of religion. If you can please restrict yourself to that matter. The other matter of the complaint will be dealt in another forum at another time.
Can I talk now?
Now you may talk.
Yeah. Commissioner Bota, you must be very careful here. You know, this is not the first time that will come forth here. There's a charge which was initial. The reason why this particular proceeding was postponed, amongst others, a charge which was put forth on the particular day. It's this one that you provided me on the same day. So if this was the initial charge that you put forth on that particular day, you read it on record. Unless the Commissioner Board is saying we need to replay the record then. And listen to what you said. We need to do that. So the reason why I'm saying is we should address this because it's the charge that you put forth. That's the charge that you even said to my client here, that he must take an oath in that regard. So now if Commissioner Board today is coming to restrict me as if you're giving me direction, it's not going to work like that.
Can we, we've got timeline issues here. We have said his summons were very specific. The pastor's summons are extremely specific. He has been given everything that he needs to be given. He needs to be sworn in for us to deal with why he's been summoned. And then we deal with that matter. The matter at hand is what is written in his summons. And hence is here. And whatever else will raise will be based on what is in his summons. And we will raise some of the issues. They are already there in the summons. And the list is very clear. It is very clear what we are going to ask him. And it's very clear what documents we require. Then you can object if anything else is not part of what he's been told about and has been given time. We're not going to not tell him that there's a complaint on the table. But what we're doing is to contextualize everything in the summons. Commissioner Botha, can you swear me, please?
Okay.
No, it's not going to be sworn. Can we take a 5-minute adjournment? I need to take instructions. I'm requesting 5-minute adjournment. I need to take instructions.